This is the secret power of people with introversion. This girl is extremely introverted, does not speak out loud, and avoids being the center of attention. She feels the world is pressuring her to change and be more outgoing, but she is going to accomplish what no one else can. Can you change the world if you are not a natural leader? She is Marcie. She is most comfortable in the quiet and enjoys her alone time to reflect and process her thoughts. Her best friend, Peppermint Patty, is the opposite. An extremely outgoing person. Patty is super expressive, loves to socialize, and enjoys being the center of attention in any situation. Marcie is characterized by her relationship with Patty. Patty usually takes the lead in situations and Marcie follows her lead. For Marcie, this is not a negative thing. She likes not having to make group decisions as this can be overwhelming due to her introspective nature. Patty calls Marcie to help her with her golf game. Marcie is her caddy, which means she has a very important job, providing her with advice on club selection and strategy on the course, gauging distance and helping her make informed decisions. In addition, as a caddy, Marcie also provides emotional support and focus so Patty can have a great game. This dynamic between Marcie and Patty perfectly exemplifies the differences in their personalities. Marcie finds comfort in a supportive role and quieter environment, while Patty excels in the center of the action. Why do these differences exist? Psychologist Carl Jung explains that these personality differences are due to the way we naturally direct our mental and emotional energy. Jung divides people into two main groups, introverts and extroverts. Introversion, like Marcie's, is characterized by a preference for inner reflection and a need to spend time alone to recharge. Introverts tend to be more reserved, observant, and focused on their inner world. They find comfort in quiet environments and may feel overwhelmed in extroverted social situations. Rather than constantly seeking social interaction, they deeply value their time alone to reflect, think, and process their thoughts and emotions. Extroversion, on the other hand, as demonstrated by Patty, is distinguished by their need to seek energy through social interaction and external stimuli. People with high degrees of extroversion find their vitality in connecting with others, which makes them adept at creating new relationships, taking risks, and venturing into the unknown. They are naturally adaptable and sociable, which allows them to function with ease in diverse contexts. Their expressiveness allows them to communicate effectively, often placing them in leadership roles. Patty is preparing for a major golf tournament, and while it may seem like this sport is an individual affair, the reality is that Marcie's support is what keeps her getting better and better. During practice, Patty's ball falls in the sand. Patty becomes stressed and thinks all is lost. However, Marcie points out to her that the arena is where the outcome of a championship can be defined. She tells Patty, manipulate the sand in the direction you want the ball to move. Although Patty initially doubts her caddy's advice, she decides to follow it, and to her surprise, Marcie was right. At the school, Patty admires the trophy she will soon be competing for and looks at the plaques of the golfers who have won it. Marcie looks at it and says, I don't see their caddies mentioned, to which Patty replies, why would they mention caddies? Golf is an individual sport. This is a reflection of what Susan Cain says in her book, Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. Cain says that contemporary culture values and promotes extroverted characteristics as the ideal of happiness and the social norm. Being extroverted, being very social, expressive with our thoughts and emotions, having charismatic leadership, making quick and risky decisions, having too many friends, and being imposing in social interactions are promoted. Meanwhile, introversion traits have been devalued, such as taking time to process information before making decisions or expressing opinions, being reflective, spending time alone, enjoying quiet time, developing deeper relationships rather than having a lot of superficial friends, working independently, and the ability to listen rather than talk. We live in an extroverted world that does not value the great qualities of introverts. In this scene, Patty is belittling all of Marcie's work as a caddy, whose role is critical to the golfer's success. When Marcie points out that she doesn't see caddies mentioned on the boards, she is highlighting a hidden reality. Introverts and those who work behind the scenes often go unnoticed in a culture that values extroversion and visible recognition. Franklin, the student president, enters the hallway surrounded by people. He is asked to sign papers, offered compliments, and has his picture taken with his admirers. Franklin stands in front of his classmates and announces that he will run for president again as his term is about to end. Lucy hears this and also nominates herself as a candidate. Patty looks at Marcie and tells her that she is really good at helping people and should run as well. Marcie doesn't immediately respond, but mulls it over. She likes to have alone time, and if she were president, she would always be surrounded by people, would have to give speeches in front of everyone, and would not have time to formulate her thoughts. At this, she says to Patty, I can't imagine anything worse than being president. Marcie takes a moment to reflect on what it would really mean for her to take on such a role. Her ability to consider the implications beyond the surface reveals a deep self-awareness and an understanding of her own needs. In contrast, Lucy, a highly extroverted person, runs for the moment without considering the real implications of this role. Pat and Marcie go to the cafeteria and discover that they have now included pizza on the menu. They both get excited and get in line. Someone bumps into Marcie, she apologizes and lets him pass, and soon everyone else is walking on, taking her place. She is too embarrassed to raise her voice and ask to be let through, so she prefers to go to the back of the line, but by the time it's her turn, the pizza is already sold out. Introverted people like Marcie prefer to avoid direct conflict and avoid feeling uncomfortable. However, this attitude also leads her to miss opportunities, such as the pizza running out before the window can arrive. This reflects how sometimes people with high degrees of introversion often prioritize the comfort of others and avoid confrontation even when it means sacrificing themselves. It's time for classes and the traffic is chaotic. Everyone is pushing and shoving, and this makes them late for their classes. Marcie greets Carlin and even tells her that she saw her yesterday being Patty's caddy. Carlin asks her if she sometimes plays golf, but Marcie says she doesn't. What she is interested in is problem solving, and golf is a sport where every shot requires strategy. This is the kind of challenge she likes, not playing the sport itself. Her preference for intellectual challenges and her ability to see the depth in seemingly simple situations show how people with high degrees of introversion bring a unique and valuable perspective to different contexts. In class, Charlie Brown comes to the front and has to write on the blackboard, but every time he does this, the chalk squeaks and makes a very annoying noise. Everyone complains and blames Charlie. However, Marcie notices that this is due to the way Charlie is holding the chalk. If he were to hold it in a different way, there would no longer be that noise. Marcie suddenly stops at the front of the room to try to help Charlie, but when she realizes what she has done, she is very embarrassed and prefers to go back to her place without saying anything. This scene highlights Marcie's keen observation. While others complain about the irritating noise of the geese on the blackboard, Marcie notices the underlying cause and how it might be resolved. This attention to detail and meticulousness are introverted characteristics that allow Marcie to see beyond the surface and understand subtleties that others overlook. Her abilities to perceive the non-obvious and deeply understand situations highlight the intrinsic value of the introverted nature in a society that tends to undervalue these qualities. Marcie goes home and sits in her room to think. She begins to reflect on all the ways in which school problems can be solved. The hallway traffic, the pizza that is not enough for everyone, and the squeaky chalk on the blackboard. At lunchtime, Marcie tries to approach the cafeteria ladies, but no one listens to her and they just push her away. She tries to help with traffic, but only the same thing happens. So Marcie approaches Lucy and asks her for advice on how to interact with new people and raise her voice, as she doesn't like to do that, but feels that not being able to do those things is holding her back from achieving her goals. But the advice Lucy gives her is not good. She tells her that she needs to try to be more like her, to impose and speak up. But that really doesn't go with Marcie's nature. Marcie approaches Charlie Brown and explains that she wants to and can help many people, but feels overwhelmed when she tries to do so in front of new people. Also, she never finds time to organize her thoughts. Marcie tells him, "I wish I could be different." Charlie Brown listens to her and replies, "I'd love to help you, but I can't help you be someone different when I can't even be myself." And these words resonate with Marcie. Be myself. I find this scene exceptional, as it challenges the mistaken belief that introverts struggle to engage in conversation. The idea that they are shy or asocial is very wrong. In reality, introverts can have very meaningful conversations because they tend to be very empathetic, reflective, and their focus is active listening. They don't tend to rush to fill the space with empty words, but take the time to understand and respond thoughtfully. The next day at lunchtime, there is now enough pizza for everyone. Everyone thanks Franklin, the president, but he says he can't take credit for it. Carlin approaches Marcie and asks if she had anything to do with this. Marcie tells him that she volunteered in the cafeteria. Instead of dividing the pizzas into 6 pieces, Marcie suggested that they could cut them into 8 so that more people could enjoy them. Marcie managed to make the change she felt was necessary, but she did it her way. She didn't get in line, raise her voice, or impose her will. Instead, she approached the cafeteria moments before and privately was able to speak directly with the attendants. During class, Marcie asks her teacher for permission to leave the room early. Marcie uses this time to arrange arrows she had made at home around the hallways. When the time rings, the arrows are already in place. Everyone leaves their classrooms and begins to follow them, and for the first time, there is no traffic and they don't have to push each other to get to their next class. Next period, it's Charlie Brown's turn to write down the answers on the blackboard, and everyone already knows what this means, so they grumble. But just as Charlie gets up from his seat, Marcie hands him a note that says, "Change the way you grip the chalk, try the grip you do in baseball." Charlie makes the change and no longer squeaks. Charlie. Little by little, Marcie implemented all the improvements she knew how to solve, but she did it in her own way. Through her attention to detail and calm, caring approach, Marcie effectively solves problems and makes noticeable improvements in the school without needing to assert herself or stand out in a flashy way. Introversion is not necessarily an obstacle to success and the ability to create positive change. Society often tends to value and celebrate extroverted people who are charismatic, assertive, and dominant in social situations. But Marcie shows us that introversion traits can also be effective in creating significant impact. Unlike extroverted people who can impose their will in a direct manner, Marcie prefers a more subtle and considerate approach. She doesn't engage in confrontation or seek everyone's attention. Instead, she takes the time to think of creative and efficient solutions. And through her attention to detail and her ability to thoroughly understand the issues, she makes remarkable changes. The time comes for voting for student president. All the students cast their votes. The tally is taken and Franklin stands at the front to announce the winner. And the new student president is Marcie! Marcie panics. She hadn't even announced her candidacy, but since everyone noticed the changes and improvements she had implemented, they thought it was an excellent idea to elect her as president. No sooner is Marcie announced as the winner, and they begin to overwhelm her with papers, photos, and greetings to strangers. New places, new people being the center of attention. While this can be very appealing to some people, especially extroverts, this is the definition of a nightmare for Marcie. What may seem like a great thing to some people is a terrible thing to her. But worst of all, Peppermint Patty tells her, as president, you get to give the speech at the golf tournament finals, and this is the worst thing she could have been told. Marcie can't take the stress and runs out. She locks herself in her room and refuses to come out even though the tournament is about to start. Patty finds it odd that Marcie hasn't made it to the tournament. This is unusual for her, but she is confident that it shouldn't be long before she arrives. In the meantime, she asks Charlie Brown to support her as a caddy. However, Marcie does not plan to leave her room. She sets up a tent, takes her books, and lies quietly on her bed in her comfort zone. Meanwhile, at the tournament, Patty's performance is really bad because she lacks Marcie's advice and guidance. Patty starts to lose as Charlie's help is of no use to her. In her room, Marcie looks at the picture she has with Patty and says to herself, Patty doesn't need me. She can win without me. But at that moment, Carlin arrives at her window and tells her that Patty needs her help, that if Marcie doesn't go to support her, she will lose the tournament. Marcie expresses to her that she does want to be Patty's caddy, but since she is now president, if she attends, she will have to give a big speech, and she really wants to avoid that. She says to Carlin, I don't know what to say. From now on, it's going to be run, talk, don't think, smile, quit, move, don't stop. It makes me feel like I'm drowning, like I can't catch my breath. Carlin says, remember what you told me when I asked you if you played golf? You told me that what interests you is problem solving and the challenge of coming up with the right strategies. You see, I believe that people like you are the element that keeps everything going. Everyone works in the background quietly to make sure everything runs smoothly. The world would fall apart without people like you. It takes a lot of strength to carry all that responsibility. What Carlin says is very true. The people who work behind the scenes play a critical role in how the world works. Just because they don't seek recognition doesn't mean their work is any less valuable. Great contributions can manifest themselves in many different ways. Marcie listens to her and Carlin finally tells her, it's your call. At the tournament, Patty is crushed and defeated, but along comes Marcie to save the day. Patty gives her a big hug and thanks her for coming. Marcie tells her, don't pay attention to the scoreboard, focus on this shot. And little by little, with Marcie's support, stability, and advice, Patty moves up the leaderboard. They reach the 18th hole, the last to finish the tournament. Patty hits her shot and her ball falls into the sand bunker. Patty is discouraged, but Marcie won't let her give up. She says to her, remember what we practiced? Patty's face lights up as she remembers the advice Marcie had given her. Patty prepares for her shot, executes the motion, and the ball goes in the hole. Patty and Marcie win the tournament. Everyone celebrates, and Patty says to Marcie, thank you so much. I couldn't have done it without you. Everyone begins to surround the winners and ask their new president to give them their speech. Marcie starts to growl, and Patty tells her that she doesn't have to give the speech if she doesn't want to. But Marcie tells her that she does. Marcie starts to growl, and Patty tells her that she doesn't have to give the speech if she doesn't want to. But Marcie replies that she does want to do it. She just needs a few moments alone to collect her thoughts. Patty smiles and demands that everyone give her space. This decision by Marcie is excellent since she is aware that in order to give the speech, she needs some time alone. It demonstrates a great level of self-awareness. Instead of refusing to give the speech, she asks for what she needs and seeks the reassurance she requires to do it in the best possible way. This reflects that through the film, Marcie has grown significantly. Marcie breathes, takes her time, and when she is ready, she stands on stage in front of everyone, and she begins. In my first action as president, I want to congratulate my friend Patty on her tournament win. Everyone applauds, and she continues. In my second action as president, I would like to announce that I am stepping down as president. All of her teammates are surprised. Marcie explains, I care very much about helping people, but I want to do it my way. I like to work in the background, not in the spotlight. It's just the kind of person I am, and I like to be that way. There was a time when I thought that in order to help others, I needed to change my way of being. But thanks to the advice of some good friends, I have realized that I can do things my way. The world needs all kinds of people, each with their own special talents. The audience erupts with joy, and Marcie lets out a big sigh. Patty congratulates Marcie on her great speech, and Marcie says, "I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad I don't have to do it again." The denouement of this scene challenges a common belief in our society, that having a prominent position of power is the ultimate recognition and that everyone should aspire to it. However, what Marcie shows us is that positions of dominant leadership are not suitable or desirable for everyone. True strength lies in knowing what roles we can best perform by knowing our qualities. Through her speech, Marcie demonstrates that it is not necessary to change our essence to contribute to the world and make a difference. We are all different with unique talents and ways to contribute. Marcie understands that she can help in a meaningful way by being herself. It's not about fitting into a preset mold of leadership, but about finding ways in which each of us can contribute in an authentic and meaningful way. Marcie chooses her own path and inspires us to do the same. Or perhaps we could see the underlying message behind this film. Introversion and extroversion are two complementary forces. We can recognize these two forces as equally necessary to keep the world turning. If you want me to relate and reflect on your favorite story or answer questions or comments, you can become a member of the channel by clicking below where it says join. This will give you access to many exclusive benefits, plus you will be supporting the channel immensely.